Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's being safe, taking care of yourselves, staying cool out here in the summer. It's after Labor Day. It's supposed to mark the official ending, unofficial ending, I should say, of summer, but tell that to the heat. It's still out there and still having air conditioning problems at the house to the point I went and put a window unit in over there and one downstairs so we can get a little bit of relief. Other than that, we're doing fine here. And got a special video for today. The title of this channel is Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show. However, so far, all the videos have been centered around the time of me working in the penitentiary, and a lot of my viewers enjoyed the academy topics. They enjoyed hearing about things. I'm sorry I couldn't really help current events because it's been quite a few years since I've been there. Well, we're going to take a step back, change lanes, and go back even further now, switch up topics. As everyone knows, September 11th is approaching us in 3 more days. Yeah, about that. And for all Americans, I'll speak for that, for all Americans, especially veterans and active duty members, individuals who experience this event in real life, it definitely weighs heavy on all of us. Part of the two other occupations that I want to be able to cover on this channel, my time in the Marines, my time in the Coast Guard. And I figured there's no better time to switch lanes than right before September 11th and start talking about my time in the Marine Corps. Now, when did this take place? Well, I enlisted in the Marines January of 1999. I'm a little bit dated. I served from January of 99 to January 2003. I graduated high school in May of 1998 and had no other plans whatsoever other than to jump straight into the military. Was kind of stuck between the Army or the Marines. I knew for sure no Air Force, no Navy, nothing like that. As a kid growing up in the 80s, a teenager in the 90s, I was drawn to cartoons like G.I. Joe, He-Man, Thundercats, Chuck Norris, movies like Rambo, Predator, anything that involved guns and explosives, I absolutely loved. It was the culture at the time, at least as far as I was concerned, it was. And I really didn't have a whole lot of other desire to do anything except be in the military. Now, I didn't know what it was going to be like. Keep in mind, at around these times, even at the time that I joined in 1999, the internet wasn't near as common as it was. I didn't even own a computer until the year 2000. Cell phones certainly weren't what they are right now. And at the time of my joining, the big thing was pagers. You'd see kids around school or just graduated being around town, at the mall, shopping centers. They'd have a pager on their hip and it would beep, and there you go. That was your technology then. Well, the other thing going on at the time, now we're going to talk about right after I had graduated high school, we weren't in any kind of major conflicts at the time. This was pre 9/11 days. We had little conflicts throughout the world here and there. Some of you might remember the names Bosnia, Herzegovina, Trinidad and Tobago. Couple little incidents around Gaddafi was still a thing. Yemen, Libya, places that we weren't necessarily friendly with at the time. But there was no grand scale war going on at that time. No major deployments. It was considered peacetime. Bill Clinton was in the office. He was our president, commander in chief. Yeah, well, those of us who lived through that, we remember. And the military's budget was cut to the bone. He was closing bases left and right. There just wasn't much going on to really support a peacetime military at the time. And we had pretty much been peacetime since, not pretty much, we had been peacetime since the Desert Storm, Desert Shield era, which, if my math is correct, ended around late 1992, early 1993. I think was when most of that drew itself down. So there wasn't much going on to gain the attention of the military. A lot of individuals, men and women, a lot of individuals were joining for the GI Bill benefits. This was the Montgomery GI Bill. Joining for that, joining because they had nothing else going on, or whatever other reasons. It wasn't so much to go to war and fight terrorists. That word did exist, but it wasn't the word that we think of nowadays when we say it after the 9/11 attacks. In high school, men were required to register for the Selective Service. Pretty sure everyone still is. I registered for it in 1997 after I had turned 18 years old. And that was really when recruiters would start contacting you, sending out the pamphlets, the flyers, no email. Everything was done by snail mail or just visits. And you'd get a request to link up with one. You go to the recruiter's office, meet the individual. They pitch their spell at you. And you kind of had to take it at face value or what other people had to say. There was very little access, in my case, there was very little access to the internet. I didn't even really know what it was at the time. Small town country boy. And not much way to verify what they had to say other than what they had to say and what little bit of literature that we could find in libraries and from the recruiters themselves. So, where am I going with all that? I graduated in May of 1998. I was working in Pizza Hut at the time. I had a girlfriend. Life seemed to be going pretty good. June, July, August. Come August, that was when things started to change. I ended up on a whim quitting my job. Things went sour with the girlfriend. That ended that. I bummed around the house for about a week and realized there wasn't anything going on. Whose contact number did I still have? I remember calling the Army recruiter. The phone just rang and rang and rang at the Army's office. Called the Marine recruiter. Marine recruiter answered the phone, told him who I was ready to join the Marine Corps. He said, "Do you know where our office is?" "Yes, sir, I do." "I'll see you down here." Click. Phone hung up. All right then. So, get in my truck, go down to the recruiter's office. Recruiter's office was in Beaumont, Texas, where I lived at the time. Parked in the parking lot, went to the door, pulled on the door, locked. Lights were still on, door was locked. I peered in, door next to me opens. I looked over, guy comes out dressed in solid white. Navy recruiter. Looked at me, I looked at him. He said, "Hey, how's it going?" I said, "Doing pretty good, sir. You don't happen to know where the Marines are, do you?" He looked and said, "Probably storming a beach or taking some hill or something." Bad joke on his part. "Is there something I can do for you?" I said, "Sir, with all honest, I've already met with the Navy. I'm not interested in joining with you guys. I really just want to be a Marine." So, "Well, tell you what, why don't you give me your name and number? I'll make sure they get it when I see them come back." I'm thinking, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm going to get a call from another Navy recruiter later on. So I gave him my information, went back to the house, and just hanging out. Get a phone call around 7 that evening, 7:30, something like that. The sun was still out. I remember that, and this was August, so it wasn't very late. Gunnery Sergeant Taylor picks up the phone. "Hello? I'd like to speak with Jesse Carter, please." "This is Jesse." "Hey, Carter, Gunnery Sergeant Taylor." I had met with this individual a little over a year ago when I was an early senior in high school. They were the first branch that I had met. And I remember thinking this guy was a freaking prick. Just an asshole. Wasn't really too interested in it, didn't like his attitude. Went on with the other branches of service, and next thing you know, a year had gone by, and then I was graduating. Now it's time to find something to do. "Hey, Sergeant, how you doing? Didn't know that Marines were supposed to be called by their full title." We'll get into that later on. Army, I think up to E7, they just call you Sergeant. Marines, full title. Sergeant, Staff Sergeant, Gunnery Sergeant, Master Sergeant, First Sergeant, Sergeant Major, Master Gunnery Sergeant. You got to get all that out. Didn't know at the time. Hey, Sergeant, how you doing? Yeah, I heard you'd come down here looking for me. Well, I came down to the office. I wanted to get some information about joining the Marines. Well, what do you think you'd want to do for us? I'm not really sure right now. I just know I want to be a Marine. This guy knew that he had me. He said, when can you get down here? Well, how about in the morning? All right, what time are you thinking about? 9 o'clock work for you, Sergeant? Let's make it 6. Click. Phone hung up. All right. That started that. It wasn't 6 o'clock when I got there. I know it was sometime before 7, because I know he didn't necessarily make a big deal about it, but I do remember getting to the office, pulling on the door, walking in, and all around the walls there's the posters, paraphernalia, moto pamphlets. I remember one of them, there's a Marine with a face in pain, and the caption says, oh, how did it go? We promise you hot days, grueling workouts, long hours, but we don't like to sugarcoat things. 1-800-Marines. Stuff like that. It was all about rough, tough, gruff, just Marine stuff. Whatever you think of Marines, that was the posters there. I had gone in and I heard, somebody here? Jesse Carter. Hey, Carter, get back here. You're late. Walk through the office, go through the door, and there he is, looking just like a freaking model. Just high and tight hair, fresh cut, slicked sides, face. I don't even think I had shaved. Face just as slick shave as he could. Brown shirt, gunnery sergeant chevrons, chest candy from top down to the bottom, name tag, blue trousers, red stripe going down it, spit shine shoes, or at least what I thought was spit shine shoes would actually turn out it's shiny plastic shoes, core frames. Walked in his office, stands up. What you late for today? Just slept in a little bit. Sergeant, didn't think it would be that bad. All right. Let's go ahead and hold off on that one right there. It's not sergeant. I'm a gunnery sergeant. A sergeant is an E5. They have 3 chevrons and crossed rifles. Can you see the difference? His were 3 chevrons, crossed rifles, 2 rockers. Chevron like that, rockers kind of like that. Oh, my bad, gunnery sergeant. I didn't understand the difference. Comes around, slaps me on the arm. That's all right. I'm just fucking with you. Come on in. Sit down. Talk to me. What brings you here? What was on your mind last night when you came to the office? Well, Sergeant, gunnery sergeant, I really want to be a Marine. What do you think you want to do for us? I don't really know. What all is there to do? Won't cover the whole story. At that point, he hands me a book that has all the different MOSs. There are number designators and all the different kinds of jobs. Infantry, military police, corrections, engineering, water treatment, heavy equipment operator, combat engineer, radio telephonics, motor transport, truck drivers, name it. It probably, administration, warehouse clerk, cook, but it wasn't called cook. It wasn't food service specialist. That's the Coast Guard. Basically some kind of a cook. Just going on down the lists and titles. And I remember seeing combat engineer. I said, combat engineer, what's this one? You know, Carter, you look like a combat engineer. All the ones I worked with over the years, that I think that would fit you really well. Let me show you all about it. He plugs in a VCR tape, and it's got information about combat engineers. They were demolitions experts and construction. It looked really cool. He described it as, these are the guys who like to go out and build things, and then when they're done with it, they like to blow shit up. I said, well, that sounds awesome, Gunnery Sergeant. Yeah, Carter, call me Gunny, okay? Gunny was an affectionate term that could be used for gunnery sergeants if the individual afforded it to the member, or if you were on a personal level or on a working relationship with them. It was an affectionate title for them. Call me Gunny. All right, Gunny, thanks. What did your parents think about this decision that you're about to make? You know, Gunny, we don't even really need to involve them. I'm over 18. Mom, the first time that I had gotten in with the Marines, first meeting that I had with them, she was not thrilled about it at all. She did not want me to have anything to do with the Army, the Marines. She wanted me either in the Navy, the Air Force, or college. Didn't want me around a combat-based service. She grew up in the Vietnam era, saw a lot of things, but me being me, 18 years old, I watched Rambo, I watched Predator. I knew what it was all about. Yeah. So he said, I understand that. However, I don't want to cause any problems, any kind of rifts or anything. I would like to speak with your parents just so everyone's on the same page. You understand? But there is paperwork that we can get started and taken care of right now. Have you taken your ASVAB? The ASVAB is the Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. It's an aptitude test. It's not a pass-fail test. It's got a bunch of different subjects: reading comprehension, electronics, arithmetic. I'm sure it's changed. In fact, 100% certain it's changed from when I took it, that you answered all the questions and it tallied up your scores and it placed you where your aptitude was. Some would be better vocabulary based, some more mechanically inclined, some mathematically, just depending on your scores. So it had been a year since I had taken it. I had taken it early on in my senior year. A lot of us had the opportunity to take that and or the SATs. I was more interested in the ASVAB. They didn't tell us it had any kind of an expiration date, so that time had expired. It had been over a year, so he said, we need to get set up with an ASVAB date, get that test taken care of, knocked out, you're all good. Let's go ahead and take a practice test. By this point, the other recruiters had started trickling in. They'd stuck their heads in. Hey, say, Sergeant Troxel, this soon-to-be recruit Carter here. Stand up, shake hands with him, already building me up, making me feel great, like I'm already part of the culture. So I sat down at his desk, got on the computer, took a practice ASVAB test. I made a 54. Now, there are ASVAB study guides. Back then, you went to Barnes & Noble, you went to Books A Million, you bought the actual book, and you went through the book and studied for it. Now, you just go to Google, type in ASVAB study material, it throws it right at your face. We didn't have that back then. I didn't even take a study guide, no prep whatsoever. Been out of school since May. Here it is now, August. The last thing I was thinking about was long division, arithmetic, reading comprehension, and all that. Wasn't prepared for anything. Made a 54 on it. He says, you got to be kidding me. You hadn't even studied for this. Hey! Yelled out to the other recruiters. They trickle into his office. And I remember one of them sitting down and looking at the test. Looked at me. And in his mind, he's probably going, this is the dumbest mother. Looks at the test, looks at me. Like, you're in, man. You're good. Walks out. Was probably trying to keep from laughing. For those who don't know, 54, not a good score for an ASVAB test. Not good at all. So, we get a date set up for me to take the official ASVAB test. We went to Lamar University. That was the local college. I think it was another week or so. I want to say it was Thursday evening when those were being administered. and got set up for that. I don't even remember what I made on it. I just remember taking the test, getting the scores submitted, and being told your recruiter will contact you once they get the scores. I'm going to go ahead and trail off from this one. I don't want to make this video too long. Once again, this is Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show, and so far it seems like the channel has been Jesse's prison experiences, and that's not what I intended to do. I want to talk about the other occupations, and it seemed like being this close to 9/11 was a real good time to switch gears, change lanes, talk about my other experiences. In the next video, I'm going to talk about, after having finished with the ASVAB, getting set up for a time to go to MEPS, Military Interest Processing Station, which is where everyone gets processed into whatever branch of service that you're going into. I'm going to leave you guys with this. Nowadays, the uniform that the Marines wear, MARPAT. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but it's a digital kind of camouflage. It came out in late 2002, and I want to say it was the official uniform of 2003. When I joined at the time, it was BDU style material, or BDU woodland camo. Okay, this isn't worn anymore, but we have, I think you guys can see that, US Marines. We had our Eel Globe and anchor ironed on that left breast pocket. This is kind of hard to see because it's black on black, but here's my corporal chevrons leaving off. And lastly, Carter. All right, button, not Velcro like normally is now. One sleeve rolled the way it was, and then one sleeve down. So this was the uniform that was worn after Vietnam. I believe this came out in early 1980s, I want to say it was. It doesn't fit anymore. I'm not even going to bother to put it on. But this was, at the time, Corporal Carter's uniform. So you can tell a little bit dated here. I promise you, this was not bought from a thrift store. This was worn during the time of service. Trousers are right down here. I keep them together. Unfortunately, I don't have other uniforms because those of you who are familiar with Hurricane Harvey that blew through the Gulf area in 2017 lost all my uniforms in that. They were at my mom's house. Mom's house flooded by the time we could get to it. They were so eat up with mold, I couldn't even keep them. I have prior pictures, but as far as physical uniforms, they're gone. This is all I have left. So just wanted to show you guys that. Real proud of that. Real keepsake. It's a treasured item. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know. If you didn't, tell me what you didn't like. I'll see y'all in the next video. Take care.